Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another edition of the Weekly Review. 2 shows this week. This is a special prediction show. My name is Mike Larkin, and joining me, as always, by my side is the dead man of RWT, the one, the only Mr. Paul Morales. How are you, Paul?
I'm good, Mr. Larkin. How are you doing?
Good. As we are recording the show, Raw has just ended, ladies and gentlemen. We just saw Bronson Reed tear it down with The Miz. We saw Randy Orton tear it down with Ludwig Kaiser. The Wyatts going buck wild on a what's it called? Was it American Made? Excuse me.
American Made.
Lord, I can't even talk. But damn, it was a good show tonight, man.
It was a very good show. It was better than I actually expected it to be. Usually, most of them are usually a little bit predictable, especially when we have kind of going into a pay-per-view. So,
did you like the fact? And I will say this: we mentioned just how good the Wyatt stuff is, and also how Ivy Nile now got because she's a part of that. That adds another layer. Do you think we're going to possibly get next week, because we'll have our predictions for that next week for Bash at Berlin? What do you think? An 8-person tag, the Wyatt 6 against American Made? That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with too. At least if not, we can get. God damn it! I can't even remember her damn name.
Which one?
Sorry, brain farting. But yeah, we can get an 8-man. I mean, it'll work for them.
Oh yeah, I mean, the addition with Maxine Dupree and her also showing, which by the way, she looked incredible. Like, she has gotten so much better. Like, it's amazing to see her grind. I think what we also got tonight with the fact that Bronson Reed absolutely mollywhopping The Miz adds more layers to that character. Like, I really enjoyed the fact that, and here's what also got with me, the fact that Xavier Woods, like, we were thinking tonight's going to be the night where we have the heel turn, but no. What we got was just him being like, okay, yeah, all right. And they at least mentioned, I feel like you're replacing Big E. That was so important to me because we all knew that's where it was going, but also at the same time, it adds like, okay, he didn't turn here, but you know the turn's coming.
Yeah, but you saw Kofi tag Odyssey Jones, and then the look on his face was just like, like why did you tag him? Why didn't you tag me?
Exactly.
But it's adding that layers to that eventual turn.
Can I also say this about Raw? The fact that the matter is, and I thought it was funny when Bronson Reed and Miz, when he got slammed on the trash can, and Michael Cole's like, you better take him to the local medical facility, which made me laugh so hard because that was the old Vince term. And I'm like, oh my God, he's trolling Vince. And I laughed my butt off at that.
Right. That they can't even say that he took him to the hospital. It's always the local facility.
Yeah. But I will say this. I just want to get those little notes before we get into the
topics. That's Vince.
That is. But I got to say, if you guys have not checked out Monday Night Raw this week, we just caught it. It was really, really good and adds layers to next week. Are you excited for Punk and McIntyre in the strap match? Because Punk cut a great promo tonight.
Yeah, and it was an okay promo. It actually wasn't really like as impactful, but a lot of people were kind of thinking Denise kind of set it off, saying that it, as long as the feud is gone on, you could have them at least do a little bit more interacting with each other than just a promo. I mean, beat downs or something, to kind of continue to keep the fire going, between the two of them. But it worked. To me, it worked. It doesn't always have to have that way. I mean, we've been looking at the progression of this match between this feud between these two, and we've already gotten like 8 months without them actually doing anything other than talking. The interactions at WrestleMania, the interactions at Clash at the Castle. So the layers and layers are coming. So, but yeah, I can kind of see it, but hopefully eventually they'll get it in on the strap match.
And finally, Dominic and Damian Priest beating down both Rhea and Damian, the Terror Twins. I got to say, Dominic and Damian, I enjoyed the promos back and forth. I cannot wait for the mixed tag. What you think about that tonight?
That's gonna be interesting. Come Bash at Berlin. So we'll see that one, and we'll see Rhea finally get her hands on Liv again.
I gotta say,
and Dominic, she gonna whoop that ass.
She is definitely gonna whoop that ass. And I gotta say, we touch upon how we have predictions coming in these great shows, but we are going to be predicting All In first because then there's a pay-per-view next week with Bash at Berlin. But before we get to that, let's put this into the forefront. So news broke that Wayne and Wyatt Rose, the new Texas Outlaws, which is a tribute to Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch, the nephews of Dustin and Cody, had a dark match before tonight's episode of Collision, defeating Aaron Solo and John Cruz. I gotta say, I like that. A new addition to the AEW family of Wayne and Wyatt Rhodes. What are your thoughts on this, man? Because I think it's great that we have more Rhodes representation in AEW.
Yeah, and it's going to be good for them. They're getting their feet wet there, much like their dad did, their grandfather did in NWA. So, we'll see them continue to progress, and hopefully, eventually, they may actually be the jumping to WWE at some point in time.
Agreed. Now, where they are in the tag division, I will say this. I mean, could you see them do like a 6-man thing? And the reason why I'm saying, we mentioned in our last show about Dustin having the Ring of Honor 6-man in the tag titles. Could you see them and Dustin maybe go for the Trios Championship? And the reason why
that would be interesting. That would be very interesting. And even the 6-man in ROH, that would still be interesting too. So, either sets of the Trios titles, the Trios titles, it ain't gonna matter. I mean, to get their feet wet, especially with their uncle, that would be perfect.
And I will say that, speaking of getting their feet wet and speaking of more representation, we're going to play this because this was a big one. I saw this as well. So what I have to say about this, and this is such a great point here, WWE and Pro Wrestling Noah, the relationship. As you see Tavian Heights and Josh Briggs here. What I love about it is, too, Tavian has been doing his thing in Japan, which I love what he's been doing in Pro Wrestling Noah. I think Josh Briggs going over there, being in the tournament, works as well. You are really showing the great representation. And before we get to talking about Omos, and I played the clip, how awesome is it to see them also getting their feet wet in Pro Wrestling Noah, which you're going to see more of a partnership between them and WWE and more representation of them featured in their tournaments.
Yeah, but that's the exact same thing as anybody going to TNA. I mean, everybody's getting their feet wet, no matter where they go. But over in Japan, Pro Wrestling Noah, this is epic, especially for WWE to actually send people over there, for them to actually learn that particular style of wrestling, it works. And if they ain't doing nothing, send them over there.
And here is what Great Muda had to say about Omos.
If you could have, who do you think would be the best to come to Noah from WWE?
俺あれ見たいんだよ。オモス。
Omos, yeah.
Big, huh?
Very humongous.
俺デカブツフェチなんだよ。でかいの好きなデカブツフェチでさ、動いてるだけで面白いんだもん。多分街にいたらびっくりすると思うよ。原宿あるってのはびっくりするよ、あんなの。
You could have
it makes sense just because of the fact that we are going to get so many great things. And we see Omos, who really hasn't done much since the WrestleMania with Brock Lesnar, since really just being around and just like special appearances, the Royal Rumble, what have you. Now, do you think this could be a great resurgence for Omos? I mean, in such a short time in WWE, tag champ, wrestled Brock Lesnar, wrestled all these big high-profile matches. But do you think this will be much of a resurgence for him?
I think going over there would be perfect for him to just kind of get his feet wet, kind of reestablish himself as still being that big man, but he could learn a whole lot over there. I look at Antonio Ioki. That's a guy right there who, is from there. And again, dude's a big guy. Ioki wasn't exactly small. Dude was a big guy. So for him to learn to learn what he learned there, and establish himself as one of the greats in all of Japan, it would be perfect for Omos to go there and do his thing there, especially with all the instructors that they have there in Noah.
Now, for me, Paul, I will say this, because I look at it like a standpoint. Remember when the guys would get released in like the mid-2000s, and you would see guys like Charlie Haas or Brian Kendrick, they would go to Noah, or they would go to 01, or they would just go to Japan or TNA, Ring of Honor. there's so many different avenues and so many different organizations and promotions that they could work with at the time. Isn't that kind of like what we're going back to with like what we saw in the mid 2000s, and then they would make their resurgence back and their return to WWE? Is this kind of what we're seeing, but more with the relationships being shown between Noah and WWE, TNA and WWE? You think that's more of what we're getting like we had back in the day?
Yeah, I think that, and for them, it's, you get talent. You're not just losing out on guys like New Japan has lost out on a lot of guys. I mean, and now you're relying on a bunch of older gentlemen. I mean, older wrestlers, that have done past their prime, and coming in and working, and it's not great for them. Look at Zack Sabre Jr. Zack Sabre Jr. just won the G1, and we can possibly see him, as a champion there too. But it's, and by the way, I looked at the list of guys, of foreigners who have actually won the G1. Andre the Giant was one.
Yeah,
Hulk Hogan was one.
Yep.
The G1 as we know it was not the way it was back then.
Oh my God. Well, you have Andre in like the 80s and whatnot, and then Hogan in the 90s after he left the WWE before he went to WCW. And even then, like the 80s and 90s, it was such a different time with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like with Zack Sabre Jr. just winning, which congrats to ZSJ. But I got to ask, I'm going to say right now, if we're going to get what I think we're going to get for Wrestle Kingdom, I am all here for Zack Sabre Jr. against Tetsuya Naito.
Yeah, I'm here for it too. It's amazing to see him go from that television title picture the way he was I think it was at the beginning of the year, right? It was at the beginning of the year where he was television title and or television champion. Sorry, my bad.
No problem.
And then all of a sudden now he's flung into the forefront of being a contender for the championship. So we'll see what happens in Tokyo.
So it's going to be really interesting to see these next few months within the world, the New Japan Pro Wrestling and pro wrestling as a whole. And speaking of pro wrestling, this cracked me up, and I had to send this to you before we get to the busted open clip when we do the cards. This was at Fanatics Fest. So somebody put in a question. This is for Biggie and Tyler Breeze as well within the LA Night. They asked about bringing the Rising from Impact Wrestling with him, Drew McIntyre, and Tonka Loa. And here was his response, and I cracked up.
What he's doing.
Now that all the members are currently in WWE, someone asked, will you bring back the Rising?
Oh, wow. Okay. No, probably not. That is a guaranteed, guaranteed no. First of all, 3 people even know what that is, and just no.
We always say never, but that's...
Well, yeah. I mean...
But he...
Okay, now... I thought it was very funny that somebody actually brought this up, because for those who don't remember the Rising, when LA Knight, Eli Drake, first started in TNA in 2014, it was Drew McIntyre who just got released from WWE, and he was Drew Galloway, and then Tonga Loa, who had gotten released from WWE, who was Camacho, came in as Micah, and him, Drew McIntyre, and LA Knight, Eli Drake were the Rising, and they feuded with the Beatdown Clan for a little bit. And it was a very short-lived group, which ended with Eli Drake turning on Drew McIntyre and Micah, and him being the heel and him feuding with Drew McIntyre in the early stages of both their careers. Would you like to see something like that, even if it was for like a short time, like a reunion or some mention of it in WWE? Would you like to see those?
Mention, yes, but not no. We ain't going back to that again.
No. Did you even like it when they
and
first
it's funny because it just happened to be the day before before you sent that to me. I had actually seen that on freaking TNA on my feed, and I was like, oh, that would be funny. I go, if that ever happened again. And then you sent me that, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, I see you, Michael. Great
minds think alike. But were you? Exactly. I gotta ask you, were you a fan of the Rising when they did that for that short time in TNA? Like,
I honestly don't even remember it. That's how short-lived it was. I don't even remember them being a faction at all.
Oh yeah, you can thank the Destination America days for that, because that's when that stuff happened. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well then, congratulations, Destination America. Thank you for that one.
Well, from that clip, we do get something even more powerful, and you brought this up. And this is pretty much what we have here is a clip from Busted Open Radio. We have CM Punk. Was he ever the problem in the locker room? This has been a big conversation within Mark Henry, Dave LaGreca, and Bubba Ray Dudley here. So let's play this because I saw this as well, and we'll give our take on CM Punk being a problem in that locker room.
What did you think about some of the things that Punk had to say?
There's a lot to dissect there. The word that jumps out at me is cancer, because that is a very, very harsh word. Is CM Punk a cancer in wrestling locker rooms? I can only go for what I know of the guy. So with Punk, I go by my own interaction with him. I go by his demeanor, his tone, his inflection, how I see him act with other people. And then I also compare that person to myself and my perception out there. Do I think CM Punk is a cancer in a pro wrestling locker room? Absolutely not. CM Punk is a guy who is passionate about the professional wrestling business. He's passionate about what he does. He's direct. He's intense. He knows what he brings to the table, and he expects you to bring something to the table too.
That is again, we talk about this all the time with both of these guys. Like, he always hits at that being Bully Ray about what is going on with the certain wrestlers and the people that he's interacting with the locker room. I have to say, I'll give my take in a second, but spot on perception of CM Punk from Bubba Ray Dudley. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's, everybody has their issues when it comes to what goes along backstage. That backstage politics bullshit that goes on in anywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's WWE, whether it's AEW, whether it was TNA, New Japan. No matter the promotion, there's always some type of politics that happens backstage, no matter what. But it's all about, they're, like he said, there are guys that just have that passion, that just have that love for wrestling, and that they don't get the respect that they deserve, for what they put into it. The fact that it's a question, and it's back to what I had mentioned on the podcast when we did it yesterday. It was the exact same thing. Everybody has so much to say about CM Punk, but he went there, he did his job, he did it, he worked his ass off, and all he got for it was a bunch of shit, and he got shit on by a bunch of people who had zero respect for him. And these are the exact same people who were all like, oh, yay, you're welcome here. Then all of a sudden it's like, bam, stab you in the back, and now we don't want you here no more.
I've always said this, and I like that you brought this up. Am I tired of talking about what happened in AEW? Yes. I am kind of like we mentioned on the show last time. I'm tired of people asking the question. But I think it's a stance of when he was there, they liked him for a little bit, and then the Young Bucks, and I've said this, they got a little jelly, and them and all of them wanted to get him out the door because they couldn't shut their mouths, and also the fact that they blamed him for Colt Cabana being on Ring of Honor, which was not the case. And the whole Jungle Boy thing happened. Did I think Punk should have handled himself better? Yes, everybody was in the wrong because you should never resort to violence. But knowing Punk being the passionate gentleman he is, I mean, this is a guy who was around Tracy Smothers. This is a guy who, when Eddie Guerrero was on the Indies after he left WWF before going back in 2002, he wrestled Eddie Guerrero. Like, he wrestled all these guys on the Indies. He's been around the veterans. He's had his WWE tenure. He's been around a lot of veterans. And I think he carries himself in the old school way of respect, professionalism, and just eyes and ears open and really listening. And that's why I look at it from night and day, like the people that wouldn't listen to him in AEW, which is a very minuscule amount because he had a lot of people in there that was supporting him in AEW, like the Jamie Hayters, like the Ricky Starks, and like all of these people. You look at WWE now, when he goes to NXT, everybody eyes and ears open. We saw tonight, I know you saw it because his girl, he was wearing that t-shirt. He was wearing a Cora Jade t-shirt when he went out to the ring. He was wearing the Generation of Jade. So you have women like Cora Jade he's friends with there, Trick Williams, Roxanne Perez that will listen to a CM Punk. So I think it's the not only old school thing, but he knows what he wants. Like Bubba said, like there was that clip from the documentary. Remember Best in the World when they were talking about what made Paul Heyman leave? Like he wanted CM Punk to be the ECW champion. He just went right into Vince's office. He's like, okay, which door is it? I'm going to walk in. Let's see what happens. Vince said, no, this is who we want to win, that being Bobby Lashley. And Punk said, okay, we'll agree to disagree. And he did the job. But he was always someone who believed in himself and knew what he wanted. Does that make him a cancer in the locker room? Absolutely not. But some people, that rubs them the wrong way. And if that rubs you the wrong way, fine. But it's an asset, not a detriment, to have someone like that in your locker room.
Yeah, same thing with Hangman. Hangman Adam Page all of a sudden decided to blurt out the bullshit that he did in a ring promo, mind you.
Yeah, which is even worse because it's like, I mean, you guys remember like watching that promo. I could even say it myself. Did you notice Punk's face is like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're completely going off the path of where we need to go to build this match. And that's what makes it even worse. This was days before their title match. So he's got to be thinking in his mind, like, is this dude going to stiff me? Is he going to take liberties of me? Which he did. He chopped him right in the freaking mouth if you saw that match back. Like, it's ridiculous. Again, I can understand the child mindset and this is why we say the immaturity level of those in the indie-rific locker room that is All Elite Wrestling. But it's unfortunate to see. But I think right now, and I will say this to put a button on the Punk thing, because again, tired of talking about it, but it makes sense within today's society. He's in a good place. He's moved on. He's in a place where people will listen. And I think when NXT, and we mentioned NXT a lot, I think he's going to be one of the integral parts of the minds in NXT along with Shawn Michaels towards the end of his career. I can definitely see him being one of the great minds in NXT, much like a Dusty was, like a Shawn was, a Triple H. I can definitely see him doing some stuff in NXT.
Yeah, we can eventually get to the point we will eventually get to that point where we see Pepsi Phil take over NXT, and of course Shawn will more than likely probably end up on the main roster with Trips. So, when that happens, it's going to be very, very interesting, going forward. So, see what happens.
Yes, sir. And going forward, which is the last part of this, because we do have a pay-per-view this week, ladies and gentlemen. It is AEW All In. We're doing this 10 matches now. Now, mind you, Tony Khan is probably going to add 2 more matches, but we're doing this early because I never know with this man, number 1, and it's always hard to do predictions with this, number 2, and number 3. Stop adding so many goddamn matches, Tony. Like, all right, we get it. Like, you love wrestling, I love wrestling, but, like, you have another pay-per-view in 2 weeks, man. Calm the F down, sir. And I will say this. I just want to preface this. Like we touched upon on Raw, like Bash of Berlin and the matches they announced. The mixed tag, Gunther and Randy Orton, and everything that they're doing this now, and Punk and Drew McIntyre in the strap matches. I am looking forward to the story that was built. With this show, I just feel like, because with everything that they've had and everything that they set up, I just kind of feel like, meh. How about you? When looking at this show, do you feel like, all right, I'm looking forward to the show because we're going to watch it, we're going to talk about it. But do you kind of feel like, meh? Or is it like, oh my God, I can't wait for Wembley? How are you feeling towards
it? Looking at the card, the only thing I am literally it's the build. For me, it's the build.
Mm-hmm.
That they're not doing enough to build it properly. At least not in my mind. They are, but we're not getting what we're hoping for. Mercedes and Britt Baker, yeah, there's a lot of animosity there. There's a lot of bullshit that they were talking about, but in our heads, it's like, is what is gonna happen? Is Mercedes really gonna drop the title to Britt? That's in my mind, and it's like I look at the card and it's like the only if I'm looking at the card, and I am looking at it right now, I'm really only interested in maybe 2 or 3 matches out of this whole thing.
And that sucks to say because, yeah, I mean, we'll get into the prediction in a sec, but as I look at the card myself, it's like I'm looking forward to Tony and Mariah May. I'm looking forward to Swerve and Bryan Danielson. I mean, MJF and Will Ospreay should be interesting. But I mean, like Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker has not really wooed me. I haven't been wooed, so to speak, just because of it started out hot of the stare down after Forbidden Door. But where we are now, I'm just kind of like, all right. And I mean, yeah, so let's go into this, Paul, just because there's a lot really to analyze, dissect, and decipher. We'll start with the one that we just want to get out of the way. Just get the fuck out. Chris Jericho and Hook for the FTW Championship last chance match. If Hook loses, he can never challenge for the FTW Championship as long as Chris Jericho is champion. Hook, for the love of God, Hook, I will say this. This should not even be a full matchup. This should just be Hook takes out Big Bill and Brian Keith, and then he just locks Chris Jericho in the Red Rum, the Taz mission, dare I say, the Katahai Jame, and Hook makes him either tap out or pass out, and Hook wins the title back. I just want this to be over. Chris Jericho, his feuds are always backwards because it will be, like he wins and then whoever wins again, and then we get a match that should end the feud, but then we get another one. But Chris Jericho kind of always has to drag out these feuds. We saw it with the MJF feud. We saw it with the Sammy Guevara feud. We saw it with the Orange Cassidy feud. We saw it with many of his feuds that he has had, the Jon Moxley feud. He just drags these on to death, and it just becomes like, all right already. We don't need to have 2 matches where you win, 2 matches where you lose. It should just be, I win here, I lose here, final matchup, ends it, grudge match complete. But Chris Jericho constantly has to be the man whore that he is, and yes, I am calling Chris Jericho a man whore. Hi, guys. But in this particular scenario, Hook wins the FTW Championship. Let's get the fuck on. Let's move on. Hook, let's go. Beat me if you can. Survive if I let you. Who's your pick, Paul?
This match should be on Collision. That's point blank. This match should be on Collision. Not even on Dynamite, but on Collision, because this shouldn't even be on the card at all. Because there is no sense in this match even happening. Not at a pay-per-view. Okay, All Out. Hey, go ahead and knock yourselves out. But yes, I just want Hook to win. I just want Jericho to go away for a while and rebrand himself, re-image himself, something. Go away for a while. Go on tour with Fozzy.
Yeah, go do your Fozzy stuff. Go do the Jericho cruise.
Yes, go do the Jericho Appreciation Society somewhere else.
So here's why I love how you brought this up. This Wednesday on Dynamite, as we're recording this, folks, we mentioned Raw just ended. It's Monday. So Wednesday night, they're doing Kazuchika Okada versus Claudio Castagnoli for the AEW Continental Championship in the UK, because they're going to be there in Wales and for
Cardiff.
In Cardiff, yes, thank you. But why is that not on the pay-per-view? Why is that on Dynamite? Why can't Okada, who you spent all this money on, like one of the highest paid talents that you have, why is he wrestling Cesaro, Claudio Castagnoli, on Dynamite? Why could that not be on the pay-per-view? Which it probably will, because knowing Tony, they're going to go to a goddamn draw, and we're going to get the rematch just a few days later at Wembley. But fuck, like, we got Chris Jericho this week. I know you saw this. Chris Jericho is wrestling the Dynamite Kid, Tom Billington, friggin' Dynamite Kid's nephew, and it's probably going to be a thing where there's going to be a screw job, and friggin' Dynamite Kid Jr. in the second match at AEW is going to wind up beating Chris Jericho, much like we saw when Action Andretti did. And then Action Andretti went fucking nowhere. So, yeah, I'm so tired of Chris Jericho and this whole bullshittery. So, moving on from the bullshittery and Jericho and Tom Billington Wednesday, and put Okada on the card, we have... All right, well, I want to get that on the main card. Let's even just start with the pre-show, because we glossed over the pre-show. So
0 hour.
0 hour pre. It's the same goddamn thing. Okay?
Yeah, whatever. It's all the same bullshit.
It's the same bullshit. All right. So on the 0 hour, we have one match announced: Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway against Willow Nightingale and Tomohiro Ishii, where the winning team will choose the stipulation of the match between Nightingale and Statlander at All Out.
Something that could happen on Collision or Dynamite
or Rampage, even
Rampage. It doesn't have to happen at a pay-per-view. Something that doesn't make sense as to why the hell it's on the damn card. Hook and Jericho, hell, they could be on Rampage, and it ain't gonna put that Continental title on the line. You paid Okada all this damn money. This is where it should be. Hell, if you want to put Hook and Jericho at on the 0 hour, because that would be a whole lot better than it being someone paying $50 for just to watch them.
I'd rather see.
At least it'll be on YouTube for free.
I'd rather see Adam Page and Jeff Jarrett again on this card than fucking that.
Wow.
Wow. I went there. Yes. So, Chris Statlander and Stokely against Willow and Ishii. Here's the build. Oh, you hate Stokely Hathaway too? Come with me. Let's set up this tag match. That's literally the freaking build. Now, I know that she is the CMLL Women's Champion, that being Willow Nightingale. I knew we were going to get this match. And if we're going to get it all out, fine. Fine. All right. But we're going to have this just to pick the stipulation. A match that does not need to be on the 0 hour, but it is. So if I'm going to pick a winner, I'm going to say Chris Statlander, because she's a heel, is going to wind up beating Willow Nightingale, and that will lead to their match at All Out, and the stipulation being chosen by Statlander. I'm going to go Statlander and Stokely. Who are you picking?
Statlander. You know what? It has to be that heel heat, and it's just going to be them getting their way, and then of course by the time we get to All Out, it's just going to be a clusterfuck of fuckery. Yeah. Yes, that's my word for the last two shows. So
fuckery.
You're going to hear that quite often tonight. So
yeah,
we already had that clusterfuck of fuckery with Hook and Jericho. So
yeah,
here we go.
Here we go.
You got two.
Next matchup, the Casino Gauntlet. The gauntlet match for a future AEW World Championship match, where the only person we know who's in it right now is Orange Cassidy. He's number one. If they're gonna do Swerve and Hangman Adam Page at All Out, this is where Hangman Page wins the Casino Gauntlet. So I'm gonna go Hangman Adam Page.
I think a woman wins it.
Oh, who you going with?
I don't know. Somebody wins it. Some woman wins it. I don't know. You know what? And you know how we do the Money in the Bank, how WWE does Money in the Bank. You got one for the women, one for the men. That's what should happen here. That is literally what should happen. You should really get one for the women. Hell, if you want to do one the men this week, All Out, do one for the women, because it makes sense for them.
So the surprises in this, I'm gonna go Ricochet is probably gonna be in this. That is a gimme for me that we're gonna see Ricochet.
Bobby Lashley.
How about Jinder Mahal?
Jinder Mahal. That's who I'm picking to win.
Okay, so Jinder Mahal.
Yeah, because don't hinder the gender. You're welcome, Amir.
You're welcome, Amir. Don't hinder the gender. And I just say on the sidebar, when that first happened, I have never seen someone so happy about Jinder winning than Amir. And I just put that to the forefront because I remember when we did that show on Max, and we were like, oh my God, they gave Jinder the belt. And Amir is friggin' screaming in RWT. He was so happy. I've never seen a man with such adulation in his voice that the modern day Maharaja won the WWE Championship at Backlash.
Man, he would not let that go. He would not let that go for almost a month. He goes, you see who the champion is, right? You see it's the modern day Maharaja. You know, yeah, that's all he kept saying, man, for like a whole month. And then his whole entire run as WWE champion, man, that man would not let that go. That was his guy. That was his guy.
We love you, Amir. And yes, you love you some Maharaja. So he's going to go with Raj. I can't even say his real name. Raj Desi or whatever it is. Desi, yes. But I'm going to go with the logical choice of Hangman Adam Page because we're going to get Swerve, yeah. So after the Casino Gauntlet, let's see, where do I want to go with the next two? All right,
it could be Ricochet and Swerve for all we care. You know, that would work for me.
See, here's my thing. The characters of Killshot and Prince Puma and build off the Lucha Underground, I would love that. Like, if we don't get that at least once in AEW, that's just a crime. That literally is just a freaking crime. But with the Casino Gauntlet, we're going to see some surprises, and it's going to be interesting to see who gets that world title match. So to go to this match next, because we mentioned it at the top of the show, Mercedes Moné with Camille against Dr. Britt Baker for the TBS Championship. Man, you can say what you will about the suspension, but the start of the Forbidden Door, where, again, the face-off was great. The promo that they cut on each other on AEW Dynamite, and then it just took a freaking nosedive because of, you know, her dressing with the Sting mask and attacking Mercedes. Mercedes, like, not wanting to have Britt around her. She needs a Camille now, and Camille's attacking Britt. And then we see Camille attacking Britt again, like we saw in Collision. The promos back and forth. Britt was via satellite. I have just lost so much steam and so much, just overall excitement and
Wait, you were interested in this? Oh my god!
I'm sorry, I know, man, but I mean something that was different, and we all know about the Doctor. The Doctor will see you now, Britt Baker, and now you just friggin' all right, the fuckery, the cluster fuckery of fuckery, to quote Paul Morales over here. This really went into the shitter. But since she has creative control and she's apparently the greatest signing in the history of professional wrestling, I am going to go with Mercedes Moné retains that TBS championship against Britt Baker. Who are you picking?
Oh my god, dude! I lost interest after, even before the fight happened with Britt and MJF and Alicia Alto. That I lost interest way before that, but she's not interesting. Nothing she does is interesting. I don't give a damn what anybody says. You can't make this woman interesting at any point in time. She left WWE and she was barely even relevant. And I say that with all sincerity. She was not relevant. Not even her last 2 years in WWE was she even relevant to the point to where she, in her head, fabricated all the bullshit that happened. It's bad when Naomi was more over than she was.
Wow. Oh, he went there. Okay. So hold on. I like the vitriol here, and I'm going to put this in the bluntest of terms as well. And Paul Morales, you can agree with me on this. Ladies and gentlemen, her run thus far in AEW has been nothing but the drizzling shits. Like, literally, like, everything that she's done has been the drizzling shits. Like, she left WWE, did that match with Kairi Sane, did the match with Willow Nightingale, did all these matches, gets hurt, comes back, signs with AEW, beats Willow Nightingale, beats Zeus, beats Hikaru Shida, has that match with Stephanie Vacker. Like, she has done nothing note of merit. It's the same. It's pretty much what you're seeing now here. If you're a casual fan and you want to see what the hell happened to Sasha Banks and you see her as Mercedes Moné and AEW, it's literally Sasha Banks and AEW. There is nothing different about her character than what it was in WWE. If you just want to watch Sasha Banks, you could just watch Sasha Banks in WWE against Bayley, against Charlotte, against Becky Lynch, against each and everybody. Go back and watch it, since this match is about to turn about friggin' 8-9 years old already. Go back and watch Sasha and Bayley from TakeOver in 2015 and the Iron Woman match afterward.
But that was when she was most interested.
I know. That's my point.
Nikki Cross was more over than fucking Sasha Banks before she left.
And Nikki ASH sucked. It was a terrible gimmick, but it was for the kids, and it made people like her. The kids like her nonetheless, but still, like,
fuck
Sasha,
Vince.
I know.
Fuck Vince for that one.
Fuck Vince, and also the fact that Sasha Banks had a pity party. And I mean, I wasn't in the room, but y'all were the tag champs, and Ronda, you were going to face Ronda again, which was a good match the first time around, and Naomi was going to face Bianca. So I got to say, there was a thing where probably in turn, I know Naomi was pissed, but there was also part of it where Sasha was probably like, we're not gonna take it, and we're going to be twisted sisters and walk out the damn company. So, yeah. Naomi was more interesting than Sasha was.
Yeah, but Naomi went to TNA and she kicked ass.
She fucking killed it. She got better. She improved her skills and just enhanced herself.
She kicked ass in TNA. Her and Jordan Grace, the matches that they had were just phenomenal. Beginning to end, they were phenomenal. And even that little piece that we got at the Royal Rumble with them too
was awesome.
Yeah, they really, really just went at each other. And even Giselle Shaw, even her and Giselle Shaw, like, killed it.
Another one who's so underrated is Giselle Shaw.
Again, yeah. Okay. So back to this bullshit. I'm sorry. We won't continue talking about Mercedes. We can talk about everybody else because everybody else is more talented than Mercedes.
Oh, just how do you really feel, Paul? How do you really feel?
No. I'll keep it 100. You know I will.
I know. I'm in the same boat. So Mercedes Moné or Britt Baker, who you picking?
It's gonna be Mercedes. Whether, if she has creative control, she's not gonna drop the title. She's gonna want to make it be hers to kind of seem like she's relevant. So
go to the next match because I can't follow that. And also, this woman sucks, Tony, she's got you wrapped around here. She's got you wrapped around her
Camille is better than fucking Mercedes. Let's just leave that out. Let's just leave that at that.
You know they're setting up for her to take it off Mercedes. You know it's going to come where she gets tired of Mercedes and she's going to turn and be the babyface monster.
Yeah, but Mercedes isn't going to drop it to her either. So
I hate this woman. But something that I don't hate, it has now been announced as a coffin match for the TNT Championship. Darby Allin against Jack Perry. What can we say about this besides the fact that Darby Allin, who we saw last year as well, do a lot of great stuff within AEW at All In, the brawls, the matches, the anarchies in the arenas. Darby Allin's going to go nuts. This is his match. Jack Perry is Jack Perry. Taco Bell, here we come. Jack Perry and Darby Allin. Here's my thing. If it's not Darby Allin, it makes no doggone sense. So I'm going to say if it's a coffin match, it's a representation of Darby's character and his overall style, and Jack Perry is that annoying little shit who looks like a hippie. I am going to go with Darby Allin over the hippie to win the AEW TNT Championship. Who you picking, Darby or Jungle Boy?
Yeah, I think this is up Darby's alley. So I mean, they're both going to kill each other, if not kill themselves, one or the other. It's bound to happen because they're both reckless when it comes to being in that ring and the things that they do. So what's going to happen is that they're going to kill the shit out of each other.
I am just going to say this.
There's going to be a bloodbath.
It absolutely is. And I think with these two, let's start with Darby setting him on fire, the whole nine, and just Jack Perry being the blacksmith that he is now. Jeez Louise, making that new TNT championship and really just, he's enhancing a lot. Like with everything that we see, Jungle Boy is just another one of those guys. And I mean, I don't like the guy, but I can say he's really embracing this new heel character and really wanting to amplify himself there. And Darby Allin's Darby Allin. But yeah, I got to go Darby. And we'll do these matches next just because I want to get them out of the way. And we have two multi-man tag team matches for separate tag championship belts. And I think the one that we're going to start with is the Young Bucks against FTR versus the Acclaimed. And I'm going to say this right now, and this may piss some people off. FTR does not need to be in this damn match. Okay, I know Tony has a Woody for the Young Bucks versus FTR, which we saw last year. And I mean, how many times are we going to see it? Like, I get it, it's a banger, but FTR does not need to be here. What they should have done is just had a rematch with the Young Bucks and the Acclaimed, and the Acclaimed finally wins it back. They finally win it back, at which I'm going to say I think the Acclaim's going to win. Or the other thing I have here is because knowing the Young Bucks, FTR beat them last year. I could see the Young Bucks beat FTR, and they get the win over FTR, and they retain, and then the Acclaim can go, hey, we didn't get pinned, and then the Acclaimed win it all out in Chicago. And I'm like, that's one of my ideas, but I'm going to go with just the fact because I want them to win, and I think it's about doggone time. And such a big stadium as Wembley. The Acclaimed to regain the AEW World Tag Team Championship. So, what do you think is going to happen? Who are you picking?
Yeah, I think that they get the titles. I think the Acclaim win, and there is no match at All In for them because it doesn't need it. If you look at what is transpiring in the tag team division, even if the Young Bucks or FTR take the pin, one of them take the pin,
right? You're
almost guaranteed at All Out it's going to end up being a rematch for the titles, but it doesn't need to happen there. But knowing Tony, as we both know Tony,
I'll pay you.
He's going to have a big ass hard on for fucking having them redo this again. But yeah, if I like your idea, but I would still like to see the Acclaim win it.
I'm going with that too, just because if you would get the Young Bucks out of the picture and then we get Acclaimed and FTR and just find whatever, and then have Acclaimed actually beat FTR, I'm cool with that. But either way, it's a lot of the same old. You know what I'm saying? It's like the old school song. It's the same old song, but with a different meaning since you've been gone. Oh, Lord. Yes, I went there. So we will go with the next multi-man tag match. A four-way London ladder match for the AEW World Trios Championship. The Patriarchy, Christian Cage, Kill Switch, and Nick Wayne, Insane in the Membrane, with Mother Wayne, against the Bang Bang Gang, Juice Robinson, Austin Gunn, and Colton Gunn versus the House of Black, Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews against wild card winners. Now, when they said we had a mystery team, I originally was like, okay, if they go before they go to WWE, are we going to get the Death Triangle with Pentagon, like Phoenix and Neville? Then the other part of me was thinking, is it going to be the Congregation with Mark Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly, and that trio there? Is it going to be like Bobby Lashley, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin? There's like some form of the Hurt Business. I don't know, but
Hurt Syndicate. Hurt Syndicate.
Hurt Syndicate, yes. Who do you think
that would be an interesting one of those? Now, mind you, there's no 30-day, 90-day, 60-day, thing, clause that they got to wait for. They're free agents, so if they show up, hey, cool, fine. But could it be the trios title? It could be. I'm not saying it couldn't, but I'm saying that it probably more than likely could be.
Right, but I look at it too from a stance like I don't know who. Now, first of all, how pissed are you going to be if it's going to be fucking Top Flight?
Sorry.
Oh yeah, Top Flight.
Well, Top Flight would be another one. That would be a long shot for me. That would be a long shot.
I don't know, man. But
what would be even worse is to have the trios the 6-man tag team champions from ROH.
Oh,
that would be the worst part. That would be totally fucked up to try and do this once again, to where you already separated the damn titles. Now you're going to try and bring in another group who are 6-man tag team champions in ROH to try and win the trios titles in AEW. So it would be pretty fucked up, but I don't put nothing past Tony.
I'll pay you. So I'm sorry. It's just it's how he is. I'm sorry. It just that man has a boner for professional wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. So in this particular scenario, I don't see the Bang Bang Gang getting it back. The house, it's got to be the patriarchy of the House of Black. And just
it has to be the House of Black. That's the only ones I can think of that would
make sense.
Look, I'm picking the House of Black just for all fuckery. I'm picking the House of Black. But whoever the hell this tag team is may have a shot.
Okay, so
this is what happens when you have a clusterfuck of fuckery because of Tony Khan.
Same thing here as we do Paul Morales. I too am gonna go with House of Black because again, we're in the UK and international talents like Malachi Black and Buddy Matthews. I'm gonna go House of Black just because there's House of Black. If there's any dominant team that deserves it, it is them. So House of Black. Now we are at our final 3 matches here. So next we'll go for the AEW American Championship. MJF against Will Ospreay. Okay. The story is you have to do the Tiger Driver 91 on MJF. He's a piece of crap. I know you don't want to do it because it hurt poor Bryan Danielson, but you have to do the Tiger Driver 91. You have to do the Tiger Driver 91. So I think since we are in the UK and we're at Wembley, and Tony loves his quick title changes, I think Will Ospreay is going to beat MJF. He finally does the Tiger Driver 91. And he wins back the American International Championship in Wembley in the UK. And as we heard, Pac said he wants the winner at All Out. So I think we're going to get Will Ospreay and Pac at All Out. And Will Ospreay is going to beat MJF to retain it. So my pick is Will Ospreay. The only other fuckery, the cluster fuckery of fuckery, is because they did tease something with back about, what's his face? Kyle Fletcher talking about, Don Callis, was the whole thing in the back, and he's like, hey, if you want to leave, that's fine. But Kyle Fletcher's looking at him like, hey, man, what are you doing? So there was that small tidbit, and I don't want to do the dumb thing of Kyle Fletcher turns on Will Ospreay because it would make no goddamn sense. But this is also Tony. So it would make
no fucking sense whatsoever. Especially if it would be better if he had the title, he turned on him. That would work.
That would be fun.
But for him just to do it, no, it doesn't make any sense. So I got Ospreay too, and I would eventually, at some point down the line, would love to see Pac and Pac and Osprey just kill it, because I know that they will.
Oh yeah, and I mean that'll probably
If that's what they're gonna have for All Out, and Pac wants the winner, then that's what we'll get. Because I don't see MJF and Pac being a good match. I mean, you have to move MJF out of that spot, because if he came back from whatever hiatus that he was on, and I get it, you wanted to move him out of that main title picture for whatever reason, or as a punishment, demotion, whatever. But him being there, and in that main event title picture is what elevates AEW. Him having that world championship around his waist elevates AEW because of who he is. If you don't put it on him, then you're just wasting your time.
So we're both in agreement on Osprey, and I will say this: the other half of the question here, the other side of the coin here, with MJF, and if Daniel Garcia is still contemplating going to the WWE, which yes, or coming back to have the MJF match at All Out, what do you think? Do you think Daniel Garcia is going to go to WWE and this officially writes him out of AEW, or do you think we're going to get MJF and Daniel Garcia at All Out?
I think All Out. It has to happen at All Out, and then he'll write him off. Rather that, or he'll just leave afterwards. Because of course we already know Penta's leaving. We already know Ray's leaving. We are pretty much guaranteed that Hook is going to leave once he's done. So
same with Ricky Starks.
Ricky Starks will be another one that'll be gone. So Daniel Garcia, I think for the fluctuation of women that have entered into NXT, for them to enter into, they need flux of men, because their main title picture is kind of wonky.
I mean, with the addition of Wesley turning heel and Joe Hendry, which you can tell that at No Mercy it's going to be Ethan Page and Joe Hendry. Like, they have great talent, but they need more for the heels to go against Ethan Page, or more baby faces, so to speak. So, I mean, we'll see. But yeah, I got to go Will Ospreay, and then we get MJF and Daniel Garcia All Out. So, moving on. Timeless Toni Storm against the Glamour Mariah May for the AEW Women's World Championship.
If Mariah May does not win this title here, you've done all this shit for nothing. If she does not win this title, probably the best fucking thing that's going on in AEW right now, these two, hands down, the best fucking story that you have going on in AEW. If Mariah May does not win this title, then you just fucked over the best story that you had.
Okay, so we know who Paul is going for. So Paul, who you going with? No, Mariah. I know you're going Mariah May.
Mariah Carey.
Right. Heartbreaker, you got the best of me. So we have Mariah May at Timeless Toni Storm.
All I want for Christmas is you.
Yes.
Not you, but I mean you.
Yeah. She is a good
Mariah May. That's what I want.
She is a good looking lady. And all right, do you see Mina? Yes. Now Mina Shirakawa.
Do I see you with her? No. Do I see Mina? Yeah. Her.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So with Mina,
I say Mina comes out and helps her win the title.
Okay, and you put them together. All right. So here's my thing here. Last year, Toni Storm lost the title to Saraya, by the way. So I love that. Now, do we have her 2 years in a row where she loses the title? So we do have 2 weeks afterwards All Out, but I think it would be a disservice for Toni to win here in Mariah May's home country of England. And also the fact that her winning it All Out does not seem as prestigious as it would here. So yes, I am also a 2.
I'm actually gonna say this one thing.
Okay.
Toni Storm and Saraya were not. That was not a storyline. That was just kind of. That was just one of those bullshit. Let me throw this fucking match together and let's drop the title because it's Saraya in freaking England, because it's her home country. So
thank you. Yes,
that's why. But this has had a build. This has had a story. So in order for us to be invested in this story, somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. So I'm thinking the one that turned on her should win. But if you drag this out for another fucking 2 weeks, oh my God, you're going to lose interest in people. You're going to lose interest.
But I love Tony Storm.
I don't give a shit you love Tony Storm. I mean, she's excellent, and she can get that. The chase with her with that title could be so perfect, so eloquently done, if done properly, Tony.
Well, we shall see. But yes, I'm in agreement, Mariah May. If, again, it makes no sense if we have to wait another 2 weeks for her to win the title. Strike while the iron is hot. Give her the belt. So yes,
yeah, give her the belt.
Fucking give her the belt. And that moves us on to the main event of the show. Swerve Strickland, Bryan Danielson in a title versus career match for the AEW World Championship. All right, here we go. If, again, we've mentioned Swerve and Hangman Page for All Out. Swerve, I think, is going to win. My thing with this is as well, Bryan Danielson got the time of your life. The Green Day video package, right? So
Yeah.
Tony loves to have them go win on the way out. Hence Sting and Darby Allin winning the tag titles and then them beating the Young Bucks. I can see a case because he loves him some Bryan Danielson. He's one of his favorite professional wrestlers. And I can see Tony having Bryan Danielson win the title before he goes out, and then we have a tournament for the title because Tony loves him some tournaments. How do I know this? Well, how do I know this? I don't know if you remember this. So they did a media call, right? And Tony Khan legit said on that call when he did the Continental Classic last year that he watched the Continental Classic with his father at Christmas. What do you want to watch on TV, young Tony? Oh, Dad, I love to watch the Continental Classic back because I booked it so well. So they legit, you would think Christmas movies. You would think listening to some Christmas music. You would think rocking around the Christmas tree. But no, Tony's like, we going to watch the Continental Classic back, Dad, because I booked some great stuff here. That's Tony Khan for you in a nutshell. I digress. So we have Swerve and Fred. That look on your face as soon as I said that. Because you know he would do that. Because you know he would do that.
I know he would, and I'm taking Bryan. And if he's gonna drop it anywhere, he'll probably drop it at next year at Dynasty. That's the only place I think that he'll drop it. He'll have a good run with it.
I'm pulling for Swerve in this because I think it's unfair if you put Swerve have him lose this. But yeah, I'm going Swerve. So you're gonna go Bryan?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Bryan.
Alrighty. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is your AEW all-in predictions, the clusterfuckery of fuckery, as we called it. I'm intrigued to see what happens on Sunday, but let's see how it goes. I know Bash in Berlin is next Saturday, but oof. We got more predictions for you next week, and we hope you enjoyed our second dosage of audio goodness this week from the weekly review. And before we close this out, Paul Morales, where can we follow you on the social medias, my friend?
Deadman of RWT. Well, right there. YouTube, TikTok. Here is where you'll find me. So, Mr. Michael Larkin, I will send it to you because you got a lot more than I do.
So at SM Show 1 or MCL92 on the Twitter front, MLarkinMB and Larkin_92 on Instagram, StephenMikeShow.com, LFCfights.com. And if you want to follow this fine show, Mike Larkin92, the YouTube channel for the weekly review, for the Stephen Mike Show, for the Pop Culture History Podcast, for On the Mic with Mike, for the LFC Podcast, for Deep Into the Heart of Wrestling, for Uncaged. You can go onto the Mike Larkin92 fine channel. The links will be in the description below. Stay tuned for another weekly review next week where we look at the fallout from All In. We see the week in professional wrestling from Raw and everything. I know we gave you a little bit of a rundown from Raw, but we will be back with everything next week. There's a pay-per-view this week. There's a pay-per-view next week. Then there's a pay-per-view after that because Tony books 2 weeks in advance. So we have a lot of stuff to predict and talk about. For Paul Morales, my name is Mike Larkin. We will see you next time, and